Hopes are high that the reforms by the President Tinubu's administration will transform the economy before the end of 2024. This is evident in the World Bank's upward review of Nigeria's growth rate for 2024 to 3.3% as against 2.9% projected in October 2023. In its January 2024 global growth prospects, the World Bank also projected 3.7% growth rate for 2025, basing its projection on expectation that fiscal reforms in the country would begin to yield fruits while inflation gradually eases, the effects of the exchange rate policy and removal of fuel subsidies fade. Tonight, we have esteemed guests who will shed light on the intricacies, opportunities, and challenges surrounding these projections. We'll explore the sectors spearheading this growth, the policy reforms steering the course, and the potential global influences at play. How can Nigeria leverage its natural resources more sustainably to contribute to the projected growth? What challenges does Nigeria still need to address to ensure sustainable and inclusive growth? These are some of the issues and many more we'll be discussing tonight. Thanks for joining us. I am Eucharia Clinton. Welcome to Nigeria Today. Joining us in the studio to discuss Nigeria's 3.3% growth projection for 2024 is Yushau Aliyu, an economist and a public affairs analyst. You're welcome to Nigeria.
Thank you. Good evening.
Now, also with us here in the studio is Adefolari Olamilekan. He's a political economist and development researcher. You're welcome to
Thanks
Nigeria
for having
today.
me.
Now, I'll start with you, Olamilekan. You just had the projection by World Bank. How can you interpret this projection, given looking at the reality, the economic reality on ground? How do you interpret this projection?
I think for me, we need to understand the projection based on the global projection that the same World Bank has given. The global projection is 2.4. And they went back momentarily to let us understand that since 2020, when we have the COVID-19, global projection about the economic growth across the world has gone down. Apart from 2019, they have projected 4.1%. Every other projection has been 2.4, 3%, then 3.3% thereabout, as for what really happened globally. So that will help us to understand why they came up with this projection that is happening. But basically, why they came up with this is as a relationship with what is happening in our domestic economy. We talk about the crude oil increase in terms of production, talk about the naira scarcity that happened early in 2023. They also talk about the current unification of multiple exchange rates that the new government just introduced. And not to forget the issues around our production, oil production that have gone up lately. So with this projection in place, they believe that the Nigerian economy can grow. And this is also in vice versa with the sub-Saharan African economic growth, which they put at 3.6%. You get it? So with this understanding, we can also know that economy in Africa, Nigeria economy, is having a robust growth projection according to the World Bank. But that doesn't mean we should go and sleep or we should go and relax. There's more work to be done so that we can achieve this in relation to what we also have projected for ourselves, that is 3.7% according to the 2024 budget. But the reality is that with this projection, does it have any relationship with the domestic market? Does it have any relationship with people at the rural areas or people in the suburb area of Nigeria? Do they understand gross domestic product? Because the meaning of gross domestic product is production in relation to job creation and poverty reduction. That is how I can interpret this projection at this point in time.
Thank you very much, Olamilekan. Now, Yushau, analysts have severally on this program projected that the inflation will keep on rising. It has been rising since July last year. As a matter of fact, the current figure is at 28.20, as against the one of October, which is 27.33%. And you have also projected that it will keep rising. Now, the World Bank has projected the 3.3% growth rate, and also with the being optimistic that inflation will ease So how do we relate this? How possible, how feasible is this?
That is what I, in my own understanding, the World Bank has not done much, because the World Bank is it has a global prospect in trying to reduce poverty, and in doing that, there is so much to be done in controlling or maintaining price stability in an economy, and that is also the responsibility of the Apex Bank, that is the central bank, in trying to regulate monetary activities in the economy. However, the projection and as attested by the World Bank, yes, of course, it's a good one for the economy, but we have already using domestic macroeconomic aggregate projected 3.7 growth rate in the same 2024. So it's still online, but what I am always not comfortable with the bank is sometimes most of the projection is looking as macroeconomic aggregate globally. And once you continue to identify global aggregates and interpret certain domestic economics with their domestic challenges, you may not get it correctly. And that is why the bank that projected 2.4 has to change to 3.3. And with time also, it is good for us to understand that, of course, there are proactive measures that has been taken for this economy, but the only thing that can continue to sustain our GDP is to look at our sectoral development. If you check carefully, the service sector is the one that is gingering the GDP. So, and if the service sector is the one that is heading our GDP growth, there is still certain challenges that we have to look in an attempt to control inflation, based on the fact that traditionally our domestic economy is being challenged by food inflation, and it is growing higher because of supply bottlenecks, because of production bottlenecks, because of insecurity, because also of the nature of the market at which goods and services are obtained.
Okay, now back to your Olamileko. I know when you came, there was a time you came for this program.
Exactly.
We're talking about the budget.
Exactly.
And of course, the budget, the projection for the GDP was 3.7.
Exactly.
And here we have 3.3. And of course, the World Bank also projected 3.7 for 2025.
Exactly.
Now, how do we explain this? Are we still on course?
Definitely we are on course on paper, but in reality we will not be on course. Just like my colleague here have said, that in terms of our productivity, look at the service sectorial production or sectorial GDP contribution to the economy in 2023. Agri and service sector almost override crude oil production because of the challenge that we have at that point in time. But in 2024, I think the government is having a new initiative in what they want to do, particularly the tax drive and revenue drive they are following.
Yes.
And they are hoping that this could help them to accelerate, spending in the economy. Because one of the things that World Bank said was that if countries, either at the regional level, at subnational level, or national level, can invest in infrastructure as well as invest in how to eliminate poverty, although it's going to be very, very difficult, but that will help them a lot. Just like he also pointed out in terms of food inflation, they said something clear in that report, which was globally. They said out of every 10 people in developing countries like Nigeria, you should be ready to see about 4 to 5 people having bowls to go and beg for food. That's what they predicted. So this could happen if we don't take our domestic economy very serious, particularly the productive sector. The manufacturing sector critically is very important for us, and that's what the government needs to do. I understand the Minister of Trade was going to all this manufacturing sector in Lagos just 2 days back. I also hope we can also do that in the northern part of the country and across the country, so that it can encourage this manufacturing sector to also see what they can do. I'm not saying they should be giving them money. We have spent a lot of trillions of naira giving to them that we never see anything, but they should put in place things that could also guide them, so that, because the GDP we are talking about is about productivity, it's about removing that sluggishness in our job creation. Because over the years there has been sluggish job creation, which I remember former Minister of Finance Okojo said jobless growth, but now it is not jobless growth, but sluggish joblessness is what we are having, because the economy is not productive, and manufacturing sectors that are supposed to contribute to production are also slacking behind. So the government should think strictly on how to ensure the manufacturing sector work strictly for us, because at the end of the day, if you are not able to get to 3.7, I think we should be in a safe zone to help the economy to grow. Because first quarter of 2023, it was 3.5. Second quarter was 2.51%. Second quarter was 2.31%. Then third quarter was 2.54%. Although there is dispute that NBS 2.54% is not correct, it's 2.52%. But the fourth quarter is what we are expecting them to bring up. But most of us have already understood that in fourth quarter of the economy in Nigeria in 2023, it has not been rosy because the manufacturing sector complained bitterly about energy cost.
Okay, now back to you, Shao. Now, what are the major drivers of this, will I say, this projection?
You see, Mr. Olamiko has pointed out the manufacturing sector. Once our manufacturing
what about our agricultural sector?
Agriculture has a problem. It has a problem because the cost of input is already high. So no matter what production level you achieve, is going to be there is going to be high prices of those output. And if there are high prices for the input, you expect inflation to continue to rise, because the challenge for the domestic economy is food inflation, because all of us has to go to market. Government goes to market, individual goes to market. All government at all level, from the National Assembly to the state government to the local government chairman, are going to market to buy food at a contract price. And that contract price is affecting the general price in the market. But not just to move out of the context of what we are discussing, the manufacturing sector. Mr. President has done it very well on 1st of January by telling Nigerians the attempt of the government in energy reform, inviting seamen from Germany to come to assist our production and distribution will assist greatly. But one fundamental thing that we need to do, if at present Dangote is at a stable level, it has the capacity of generating 12,000 megawatt of electricity. So we are expecting those megawatt to be around Lagos, Ogun, all the old states supposed to have additional megawatt to ginger manufacturing, because most of the things even chocolate that we consume comes from that zone. So there is need to improve. And not only that, if we are to maintain steady growth rate and also maintain our employment level, not to have double-edged sword circumstance where the GDP is growing and unemployment is increasing, because manufacturing are not taking the excess level in the economy, because also inflation is driving out many producers out of production as a result of high cost of input. Remember, if we are to sustain the GDP and to attain 3.3% as projected, or 3.7% as postulated in our budget 2024, there must have a synergy between the federal structure and the state structure in an attempt to evacuate excess asset that we are not tapping. Remember, in agriculture, that has been the mainstay of the economy for a very long period of time, suffered from the production zones. The activities of the bandits has chased away many farmers, and at the same time also has increased cost of operations. This has to be checked if we are to sustain the GDP.
Okay, now Olamilekan. Now, the report also looked at, the growth in the global scale, and you mentioned it. It said there will be a projection, a slow growth rate, moving from 2.6 to 2.4 in this year. Whether we like it or not, whatever happens in global scale affects us in the country. So how can we, and remember, the tension also in the Middle East, the war that's going on in the Ukraine, definitely has effect on Nigeria.
Yes.
So how do we maintain or stabilize, sustain a stable internal economy, given these factors?
I think critically is for us to look at what we consider as home market strategy. Home market strategy is to say, okay, let's see what we can do within our domestic environment. Before we came on air, my colleague here was talking about intertrade within the African economic zone. It's very, very key, and we must encourage government to go into that, because after the African Free Trade, Continental Free Trade Agreement is available, So how many countries are ready to take up that initiative is a serious question we need to ask ourselves. But Nigerians must take advantage of that. Then Nigerians must also take advantage of its domestic, because as being said, we are the biggest populated and big market for any economy in the country across the world. But also ourselves, we can also consume what we produce by ourselves. So we must encourage government that, okay, with this, what is happening globally, the geopolitical tension across the world, and the inflation and interest rate jacking up, because one thing we must also understand is that interest rate is also contributing to some of the global problems we are having. That's why you see that when the new CBN governor came into office, he was very, very careful not to talk about monetary policy committee, because he knew that if he jack up the interest rate, people will shout. So that's why they have not made any input in terms of interest rate, because as we are speaking right now, the other world power, UK, US, they are thinking about jacking up interest rate. So we must be able to put all this in cognizance that if we want to ensure that we have a better economy in 2024, fiscal policy, monetary policy, and trade policy is very important. And that's why we mentioned after we help us to be able to galvanize all the potentiality of our economy domestically, and look the sub-region countries around Africa, West Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, North Africa that we can also partner with, whether in energy distribution or energy supply, or in food distribution or in food supply, which is very key to Nigeria economy. If we don't take advantage of that, that means we are going to lose that. Then the manufacturing sector is very key. As I made mention of the job creation and taking the excess of unemployed people in the job market, it means that the manufacturing sector must be working. There have been issues around importation of machines, equipment, and other machinery that will support the manufacturing sector. Why can't our people begin to look within the African economic sector? Can we get a substitute for those equipment? Can we get a substitute for those machinery things that we need to also put in place some of those things that will help us to reduce the influence and the pressure on Naira and dollar? Because if we get those equipment within the African sub-region, it will help us a lot. And South Africa has that technology. So we must look at the direction of South Africa for all those equipment and machinery for our manufacturing sector.
Okay, now, we've been talking about figures. We'll talk about sometimes the ordinary Nigeria will say it's big grammar. So how does it affect the average Nigeria? The projection and all we are talking. How will it better the life of the ordinary Nigeria?
In understanding this concept, it's just you go back to household. Salary is increased by 10%. How does that increase in 10% change life in the household? It just requires strategy. It requires also commitment for you to get the result out of any development process. The GDP growth is a good indicator for government to begin to plan more and sustain. Do you understand? Most of the policies. He has spoken very well on issue of intercontinental trade. Now Africa in general, if we can allow, why do we close our borders when we are signing treaties that influence free trade? These are some of the challenges. You are making many people unemployed. And if you continue to maintain our borders closed, how do you maintain the networking of transport sector? Transport contribute, agriculture contribute, manufacturing contribute, oil contribute, gas contribute. Many sectors of the economy are very important to the development of any economy. Fundamentally, if you speak about GDP and you spoke about the global factors, today Nigeria, our bakery industry must be sustained with the aid of Ukraine and Russia, because most of the wheat that is produced there end up in our market. But what capacity do we have to produce? And that is why, if we have a favorable climate similar to that is in Ukraine and Russia, we can make our production. We have fertile land in Central Africa and southern part of Africa. We have fertile land in West Africa, but we are not making good use of it.
But you're talking about the better climate.
Yes.
We're talking about right now we have, this is the time of technology. A lot of countries are no longer depending on if the weather is good or if the weather is bad. We're talking of technology. So how can we adopt the modern technology?
There is graduation level. We are from subsistence farming. We are yet to be more mechanized farming. These are things that we have to bring first. Technology transfer. If Rwanda is more sophisticated in their agriculture, Nigeria is supposed to learn from it. If South Africa is sophisticated in manufacturing, we have to learn from it. In fact, the service sector that is giving most of the GDP, the technology is coming from that part of the world.
Exactly.
So, but we can do that with good monetary and fiscal policy. And I'm very happy with the central bank that they have started even speaking about recapitalization of banking industry. These are the things that the World Bank has been considering, because by the time you make a certain adjustment in our financial sector where big investors can access fund quickly, this can change the narratives as far as our GDP is concerned.
Okay, now, Olaliko, probably, if not the last. Now, the baseline forecast also implies that per capita income will reach its pre-pandemic level only in 2025, which of course was our initial projection. In fact, which is our projection for the budget. Now, how achievable is this?
You know, critically, we have said mentioned all the factors that will help us. Now, this capitalization or income level that we're talking about rests with productivity. If there is no productivity, there is no way income can come in. But when there is productivity, income will increase. You know, if you just suppose the numbers of people that are working and what they are producing, it is a chain of cyclical increase in the entire income availability to everybody in the economic system. But when this is not available, there is no way we can achieve it. But we just hope that the government, through their investment in infrastructure, because what will aid this, what I'm saying is that investment in infrastructure, transportation, as he has rightly mentioned, electricity, which is also part of the energy, and also fuel energy, which is also for in a way we can ensure that there is serious supply and accessibility of it. We both Nigerians are saying that, okay, if Port Harcourt refinery come on stream, Dangote come on stream, what will happen to the price? The price will be there. There will be uncertainty, there will be vulnerability, there will be floating. It will not come down as we expected. But at least when there is supply, energy supply will
I don't think Nigerians will want to hear that.
No, they have to. They have to.
No.
They have to, because I remember after the pandemic, the price went down to up to 138 naira per liter. But after the pandemic left and after some time, it started going up. That was the period they were selling crude oil at $20 per barrel, if you remember. So it went up again. But we just hope that the stability and access to it will help us to cushion the effect. Because when the supply is much, the market forces, our NMPs have said, and supply and demand forces will definitely work on the owners of filling station outlet, and they'll begin to juxtapose, okay, I want to attract more customer, let me reduce my price by 2 naira, by 3 naira, and that will also help them to make margin of their profit. Okay,
now, lastly, Yushau, the World Bank has said they're optimistic that the reforms will yield results, will yield fruits, you know, and of course that will definitely transform a lot of things in the economy. Now, what are those things that you think the government is doing right, that you think more effort should be, you know, should be given into that? Just in a few seconds, in 30 seconds.
The president is giving courage to the economy and is also encouraging people to believe in the system. It is when people believe in the system that they can give their contribution. And when taking contribution from different perspectives, there is need for government to maintain price stability. That is the first thing. That is what will leave you with your income, leave me with my income, leave you with your purchasing power, so that our contribution to GDP will continue to yield results.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we wrap up today's episode of Nigeria Today. A very big thank you to Yushau Aliyu, an economist and public affairs analyst. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And your contribution. Also, Adefolanri Olamide, political economist and development researcher. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for being part of the program. Don't forget, Nigeria Today is weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also check out this episode and other episodes on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thank you for watching. I'm Eucharia Clinton. See you tomorrow.